on the News Channel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Open Line. I'm Carrie Sharp. Glad you can spend the next hour with us. Tonight, our topic is a tough one. It is one of the most controversial stories happening in our community right now. We are talking about the fatal police officer-involved shooting of Daniel Hambrick. It happened in July. We've covered it with several shows, with several different guests, with several points of view. Tonight, we have Daniel's mom with us. Vicki Hambrick is here with us as well as the family's attorney, Joy Kimbrough. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Ms. Hambrick, I told you this before the show, and I think that I speak for a lot of people. Just as a parent, I am sorry for the loss of your son. I know you are grieving.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Good.
All things considered, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we appreciate you speaking out. I know in past press conferences, you've asked the media just to kind of take a hands-off approach to the family, but why have you all wanted to come in tonight?
Well, I think when she asked, you know, for them to kind of stand back,
Sure.
I think she meant, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Hambrick, I think she was basically talking to police about harassing and contacting her family. I don't think, would you explain that, Ms. Hambrick?
I really wasn't talking about the public, Nashville, generally. I was talking about the police officer. And I really love what Nashville doing, opening their arms and loving on me and my family and calling me and, you know, telling me they love me and giving me more respect and, you know, and saying they there for me. I really appreciate that.
I do want to bring everybody up to speed before we really jump into this, just so that we're all on the same page about where we are right now in this case with an officer charged with homicide. That's Officer Andrew Delkey, with Daniel Hambrick, who was fatally shot by Officer Delkey. Here's a story that kind of just brings us all up to speed so we can start from the same point tonight. Let's watch.
Usually, Officer Andrew Delkey escorts suspects here, but today he walked into the bond office to face his charge of criminal homicide. He's accused of shooting and killing Daniel Hambrick.
That Officer Delkey gave Hambrick repeated verbal commands to stop, drop the weapon, or I will fire, as he was trained to do.
David Rabin, Officer Delkey's attorney, says his client acted in self-defense.
Officer Delkey was protecting himself, his backup officers who were on the way, and the public.
The police report of the incident states Officer Delkey was chasing a white Impala that ran from a traffic stop. Investigators say Officer Delkey stopped the chase and began searching a nearby apartment complex for the vehicle. The report says he misidentified a white sedan and approached people near it. Hambrick was one of those people and took off running. In surveillance video released by the district attorney, Hambrick was shot in the back and head by Officer Delkey. A gun was found under Hambrick's body.
Officer Delkey was following the law and his training.
Earlier in the day, a magistrate didn't believe there was probable cause based on the TBI's report, but a judge thought otherwise, allowing a warrant to be issued for Officer Delkey's arrest. The Fraternal Order of Police president had strong words about it.
That's not justice, that's judge shopping. This case is a politically inspired rush to judgment. This is not a case of an innocent, unarmed civilian shot for no reason. When that happens, criminal charges are appropriate.
James Smallwood says the surveillance video doesn't tell the whole story. He believes Hambrick was a deadly risk to the officer and everyone in the neighborhood.
That was Alexandra Cohen reporting for us. That brings us all up to speed. I do want to lay some groundwork, though, with some of the things that we heard. First of all, Ms. Hambrick, you said that you really wanted the police to leave you alone after this. Can you tell me about some of the communication you have had following this with the police?
They was harassing my family, you know, stopping my family for no reason, and, you know, coming by our house and, you know, just doing different stuff to us. And that's not right, because he made my sister sick and my daddy sick. And I don't think that's right at all. And then when we was at the funeral home, they was harassing us. When we was trying to view my son's body, they was harassing us, stopping the cars and stuff. They didn't even give us a chance to breathe or anything.
How did you find out your son had been killed?
How did I find out? Through my daughter and through the hospital and through the news. I seen it on the news.
When she says daughter, she means her play daughter. She doesn't have a biological daughter.
Right. Daniel Hambrick was your one and only child, correct?
My miracle baby.
What do you say, miracle baby?
Because what happened, I had a couple of them before him, and I had miscarriage, and he's my miracle baby.
Has the chief ever reached out to you to offer condolences, to offer anything?
No, ma'am, and I don't want him to.
Joy, talk to me a little bit. We saw kind of the facts laid out there, the nuts and bolts that through Alexandra's report. As you have your feelers out in the community, are there misconceptions out there about this case where it stands right now?
I don't know about misconceptions. I know what we know, and what the family and friends of the family know occurred and happened. We know that on that day, July 26th, that the initial reports were not accurate. We know that initially the official police statement was that there was something about a stolen car, and that that Daniel was pulled over. We know that all of that is not true now. We're able to see the video, and we know that what definitely occurred is Officer Delkey pulls up at some point, who is outside of the car, almost to a door, maybe in the door, I'm not sure, but Daniel runs, Officer Delkey runs. We don't know why either one of them were running, but at some point, Officer Delkey stops, plants his feet, and he actually shoots 4 times. 3 make contact. He shoots him in the back of the head and twice in his back. And Daniel grabs the back of his head, falls down, and dies. And it's just left there. No one is trying to bring him back. No one's working on him in a medical sense. He's just left there to die, and then they actually cuff him while he's lying there dying.
And how do you know, how long did he lie there before anybody tried to start CPR? Do you know from watching that surveillance video?
I do not know. I just know that we never see it. We never see it. And then I think a truck, an emergency vehicle, blocks the view. So I don't know how long he lied there, but he laid there too long. It was too long. It was troubling that the first response of the police was to cuff him when he's clearly dead, clearly not moving. And they cuff him. And he's lying on his back with his hand cuffed. I'm sorry, he's lying on his front, on his face, with his hands cuffed behind his back. It was troubling.
As an attorney, because you are the family's attorney, you know the law better than the 3 of us sitting here. Can you tell all of us about the threshold police officers face when it comes to using deadly force? It is different than Joe Public, than you or I out in public.
There has to be a threat to either the police officer's life or someone else's life. There was no threat. There was no immediate threat. People talk about there was a school close by. School was out. He's nowhere near the school. He's just running. The only threat that day was Officer Delkey.
Let me play devil's advocate, and it's not the first time you've heard it.
Sure.
Police say that Daniel had a gun, and that it was threatening to the officer, it was threatening to the community.
Well, then if you say that, you'd have to say everyone that has a gun is a threat. He was no more threat than anyone else, than the person that jogs with their gun. He was not threatening. There was no gun pointed toward the officer or pointed toward anyone else. If he had a gun, we still have our suspicions about that. But if he did have a gun, it clearly was not pointed at the officer or pointed in the toward the pup. There was no one out. There was no one out. He was simply running. And I believe that Officer Delkey got frustrated because he could not catch up with him, and he shot and killed him, and then initially lied about what happened. He talked, if he was honest, and this was really a good shooting, he was in fear, then why lie?
What did he lie about?
He lied about the stop. He knew he had no reason to be chasing someone and just kill him, because I guess the first question is naturally, why were you chasing him? And what can he say? So he says there was a traffic stop. I stopped him, I pulled over, I was looking for, it was suspicious, you know, he does all of that. And now we don't have the reports yet. I'm sure there's much more that remains to be seen, but it's very troubling what occurred, what happened.
The video that we have shown, and it is hard to see every time we watch it because we are watching a man be killed. We are watching an extremely tense situation quite clearly. Do you know, and it's grainy, it's not great video. Do you know if any other video has surfaced in this case?
No, but now I'm going to differ there.
Okay.
I think the video shows a lot. I think now initially we couldn't, with the first video, we couldn't tell what happened, I believe, past the tree. But then when you got that video from Martin Luther King School, you know, it shined light. And I want to say, I want to make sure you understand that Officer Delkey did not know about that other video and that angle when he made his initial statement. He didn't know it existed. And so it seems like the narrative is changing now that they know there's a video and shows something much different.
And do you take, just so we're on the same page here, when you say Officer Delkey's first statement, because we have in the affidavit what he told, or what the TBI has summarized. But also, we heard from police spokesperson, like we usually do, Don Aaron, on the night of the shooting, about what has unfolded. And do you believe what Don told the media came from what Officer Delkey told police? Is that what you're referring to, maybe his first statement?
I think the statement was released by, I believe, the one I'm referring to, I don't believe it was Don Aaron, it was the TBI spokesperson.
It may have been on, on that very first time, the night that it happened.
It was a TBI who initially went out to the scene and began the investigation.
You're right.
That was their initial statement. And then at some point, I think they had to clear that up or retract that statement after they made it. But it was based on their investigation. The TBI is not going to speculate like that and say there was a traffic stop, and they don't guess like that. It was, the officer said it.
I want to know what you make of what the FOP has called the judge shopping. The fact that the magistrate, the first person to hear this, the affidavit, what was laid out, said there's not enough evidence. And so the DA went to another judge.
I'm confused when they say judge shopping because there's actually, he only spoke to one judge. The commissioner is not a judge. Judge Mondelli, the one he went to, was the only judge that evidence came before. That was Judge Mondelli. And you have that option. If the commissioner feels like, well, it's not probable cause for me, you have the option of taking it to a sitting judge, the ones elected by the people.
So you believe that the process was just being followed?
Well, yes, it was followed. That was his option. He can do that.
Okay.
Yes.
As I said, this is Open Line. This is your chance to ask questions, to talk to Ms. Hambrick. I would just hope that we can have this next hour and do so in a respectful way. This is what I've told Joy. This is what I told Vicki coming into this. This was your desire to come on this show, and I appreciate that. As I've said, we have covered this in many different ways, with many different guests, with many different points of view. As we take these calls, I just hope that we can all be respectful of one another, even if we don't have the same opinions. That's all I ask tonight. I do know that Brian is going to start us off. Brian, thank you for joining us. What's your comment, your question?
Hi, can you hear me?
I sure can. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, this is a tough thing. It's a really, really tough thing. So what I'm going to say is I think it was, it's not second-degree murder, what he charged him with. What it's called manslaughter. And I'm not going to say it's involuntary manslaughter because he kneeled down in that position and shot him. It's like these military guys. We shouldn't be hiring all these military guys for police. I'm telling you, man. But hey, who am I to say? But I also think that I don't think we need an oversight board. It doesn't do nothing in Baltimore and you know, places like that. So I think what we should really concentrate on is certain parts of the city that are really violent. And maybe we could like put lots of police in there, but we got no police and no teachers anymore because of our budget cuts. Remember the budget, the national budget, we're getting all that stuff cut. So I don't know what I'm saying. You know what I'm trying to talk about?
You know what? I think what you're saying is there's no easy answer. And I think we can all agree on that. Right. So Brian, thank you for calling in tonight. We do have lots of callers on the line. Brian touched on the Community Oversight Board. I know it is one thing you both support. Can you tell me why?
We just believe that it is time, it's really past time for community say in the actions or the misconduct of police officers. Now they have something in place now, their Office of Professional Accountability, where basically you have police overseeing other police, and they get the final say about their co-workers. Their head person or director, I don't know what she's called, she came from the previous district attorney administration, and this is a person who worked hand in hand with police to prosecute cases. So now she's their leader, and I might say she was actually reprimanded. It made the news. She was reprimanded as an attorney for withholding evidence as a prosecutor. So it's the setup they have now is disturbing. It's disturbing. A lot has happened. A lot goes unanswered. We encounter people, well, I do in my profession, encounter people all the time that say, well, I did file a complaint. I did, but they didn't do anything. They say that all of the time. And a community oversight board doesn't mean, oh, police, you're in trouble. It doesn't mean that. A lot of police welcome it. You know, if you're doing right, there's nothing to worry about. And so they're not there to just, I guess, I don't want to say spank, but they're not there to make trouble for police. They're not doing that. They're there as a community to basically help police.
Gotcha. Is there anything you would like to add to that, Ms. Hambrick, about whether you support the Community Oversight Board or not?
To help out with the young folks, because they scared now. You know, they scared for their lives. And they see where, I say, Daniel, they play brother, they friend, you know, a cousin to them, you know, and they scared. They scared to stop when a police try to stop them, you know, and they told Miss Kimbrough, I'm scared to stop. I'm scared to stop on the street, you know, and then they'll say, Auntie, I'm scared to stop. So I say, well, baby, you just pull over at the store and then you call somebody, or pull over at the gas station and call somebody. You know, and I think we need it.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more of your phone calls. I know several of you are on the line and waiting. We'll get to those right after this break. Stay with us.